Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, where if you're grumpy and alone, you're our target demographic. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian, and no one told me that.
Like I could have been the key target this whole time, but
Yeah.
instead I'm on this stupid show.
Yeah. So
All
this is
right,
another one of our character types.
this is one of our character types.
Yeah.
So before we jump into this, there's a lot that's going on in the world. It's April. We made it through April. It's been great. You had a good Easter. I'm sure all you guys had a fantastic Easter. Nice weather. We live in Minnesota, so it's like getting 70-degree weather at Easter is like this is a blessing from the Lord. So that's good.
Especially since snow-wise, this has been the worst winter in 30 years.
What's great is I live in southeast Minnesota, and typically southeast Minnesota is also lumped into like all of the rest of the crap that the rest of Minnesota gets. But this year we have been spared weather-wise. Like all of these things that have hit most of the rest of Minnesota, including the cities, have just kind of passed over southeast Minnesota, and we're like, "Oh, you're still getting snow? We're chilling down here." So sorry to make
So
you hate me.
I was just gonna say that. Did you hear that? That's the sound of me suddenly hating Matt. You know how many times I've had to call AAA? I tried. At one point I got stuck, and then the snowplow plowed around me, making me even more stuck.
What a guy, you know?
Yeah.
They're not paid to stop. It's like, yeah, sucks to be you.
Yeah.
I got whited out by a semi once, and because of that, I went off the road. Like we're all going. It's like snowing, and we're going like 45 miles an hour at night, and
Mhm.
the semi is just barreling. He's still going like 65. He's like, "Oh, there's a passing lane. I know it's completely filled with snow, but I'm gonna pass everyone."
Yeah.
And he just goes like right by it, and
Yeah.
I can't see anything. And then the next thing I see is a snowbank right in front of me,
Oh,
and by
fun.
that point, I can't stop, and I hit
Yeah.
it.
You said you got whited out. I mean, Friends got whited out for 9 years until Alicia Tyler came on the show.
That's fair, you know. And they not just whited out; they're like extra white. They had Gunther, and that man is like twice the white as anyone else in the world.
Pretty much.
All right, but that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about so hit on that we have like a new archetype that we're this
Yeah.
new character trope, I suppose you could say, of the grumpy loner. So we
Mhm.
actually had an episode that wasn't too far off from this type, like in the last month or so, and we talked about these self-destructive narcissists. Now, I wanted to make sure that I'm not going to include any of those guys, even though they would fit in here. Like Dr. House, he is absolutely grumpy. He's
Yeah.
absolutely a loner, but we already talked to about him, so we don't
My
need to bring him
yeah.
up again.
All of mine, I think, are different enough that they wouldn't have fit in that category. I don't think. No, I don't think so.
My tops, yeah, like my tops. No, wait, I got one that would probably fit in that category.
Okay.
But yeah, like everyone from the like self-destructive narcissist, I think everyone would fit in this category. So this is a little bit more broad that we're talking about, whereas last time it was
Yeah.
a little more specific.
Before we start recording, Matt, I told you we had 7. I'm going to bump it down to 6 because I think I am going to save one more, one of mine for a different character type that I want to do later on at some point.
Ooh, stay tuned.
Yeah.
I've got like 7-ish to talk about, but I mean, I think there could be some overlap because I've got some very popular characters on here.
I'm sure that at least one, if not more, of ours are going to be duplicates.
Okay, there is one that I think actually that you gave as the example when we were
Yep.
like, oh, what should we? So that I put on my list. And I'm like, wait a second. Now I'm remembering. Let me not talk about him. I'm going to talk about a very, very brief, like, because I'm going to save some of the best ones. I've got some really great stuff to talk about on like
Yeah.
these top guys that I just love. These are great characters. But here's a character that's just kind of fun. That he doesn't have a lot of depth to him, but he does fit this mold. I actually thought of him like 5 minutes before we started recording. And that's a character from Futurama. His name's Scruffy. He's this janitor. He's not even in all these episodes, but he is this like loner guy that I love. He also always speaks in third person, and he's got like he talks just exactly like you would think someone named Scruffy would talk. And so I don't remember what the context was for this line that I absolutely love, but like everyone's gonna die, and they like make some sort of comment to him that they're gonna die. He's like, Scruffy gonna die the way Scruffy lived. And then he just keeps reading his magazine as he's sitting there.
Yeah.
Like that is Scruffy to a T. He's got some great lines, so I wanted to give him a shout out,
He's the character
even though it's
who
small.
would be easy to forget and who doesn't care if he gets forgotten.
Exactly, and that's what you want when you're talking about like a loner, grumpy character. You're like, do I care about what you think? No, I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna just live my life. And Scruffy's that guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll start with I think the only one that you're not going to be able to comment on really much because you didn't watch the show at all. But I'm going to go with Bobby from Supernatural. Now, do you remember? You've actually seen Bobby in the one episode I had you watch.
Was he the dad, or was he like the surrogate uncle?
The
Or
surrogate uncle. Like
okay.
he's the basically like their dad.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because his whole thing is he lives out in like his place alone. He's like got a junkyard, and he's like there whenever they need to find out some lore on some crazy creature they're fighting. He's like, oh yeah, I got this big book, and here's the thing, and he calls them idiots, and it's just he is basically always making fun of them, and is like doesn't care about being liked or anything, but he is still like so beloved by these two that it's a really emotional scene when he, spoiler alert, dies like halfway through the show.
Oh, what a poor guy. I mean, you've spoiled that for me before.
Yeah, we've talked about him before, and I don't anticipate you going to watch Supernatural.
No, I mean, like there are some shows I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start on this, even though there's a ton. Like it was a while ago, like a year and a half ago. I'm like, I have seen episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but I never sat down and watched it. And that's like a 9-10 seasons or something like that.
Yeah.
And each season has like 20 some episodes that are an hour long. And it's like, you're really asking for it. Or recently I started Survivor, and I'm also really asking for it by watching all of the seasons of Survivor because I'm a masochist.
How far are you into Survivor?
What?
Where are you at Survivor?
Halfway through, not even halfway through season 1. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in on season 1. Who just got voted out? The only black woman on the first
Ramona.
season. Ramona, thank you.
She's the fourth one voted out.
Yeah, so that's as far as I'm in.
Yeah. Season 1 does have some good moments. It's got the finale has some really great jury speeches, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not like, oh my gosh, season 1 is the best.
Yeah, I've seen like Sue's like the rats and snakes one. Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's good. All right, Matt, who else you got on your list?
Oh yeah, you had just gone.
Yeah.
Okay. This one is the only one that maybe you could consider a stretch. And we talked also beforehand of there's another character type that this character would fit in. I don't know if we're going to do that at all, but he does fit in this, but he probably fits in another type better. And that's the reluctant hero category. There's some really good reluctant hero characters, but this one overlaps in both. And he's reluctant because he is a bit of a loner. He does things on his own. And that's from a TV show that's very popular right now in the middle of its 3rd season, Din Djarin from Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
He's a really good character because what they do with him is that he, like, okay, first of all, his emoting, like Pedro Pascal, being like the flat tone that he has and also hiding his face with a helmet, yet he's able to emote so much. That's really strong acting to be able to do that. Like, where is your emotion coming from? It's hidden behind all of this. The entire way that you like act is this facade, but yet we understand his motivations. We understand what's important to him and what he cares about, despite that. And then, like, for him to finally care about something, like he cares about the creed of the Mandalore. He cares about that side of it, but that's not even so much that, like, it doesn't feel like he's doing that for acceptance. It feels like he's doing that because that's what his identity is, that he's supposed to be this Mandalore, like he's supposed to be that thing. Without that, he doesn't know who he is. But in terms of like actually forming a connection with people, he doesn't have a connection with other from the Mandalore. I don't know if tribe is the best way to say what it is, or clan.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any
maybe
connection.
Not clan. Clan has it's been ruined by The
I,
clan.
yeah, but I mean, also like, yeah. Anyway, I play a lot of RPG games, and they don't shy away from clan in those. So it's like I'm not going that route. But he does have that connection with Grogu,
Yeah,
and that's what is so fascinating about this character is seeing him drawn into caring about Grogu and actually caring
yeah,
about something outside of this false identity that he thinks he has, that he's really kind of contending with and fighting for.
yeah. It's the
And
first
this
time.
season's a
Yeah,
lot more of going back to that.
I haven't
Go
seen
ahead.
any of the third season yet, but like even with the first two seasons, it's like he's trying to. It's the first time he ever has to deal with moral questions.
Yeah. And a part of it too, like, is just almost a blind following of the this is the way, this is the way. Like things are
Mhm.
so black and white for him, and
Yeah.
Grogu introduces this gray area
Hmm.
that he doesn't know how to live in. And this season 3, like I'm not gonna ruin stuff, but his arc definitely is to go back into, and I'm not super far into it either, so I can't even ruin all that much. But his arc is definitely trying to go back into like
Hmm.
re become worthy of the Mandalore armor and the Mandalore title because he's lost that.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you go back into that black and white world when you've already given up pieces of that and sacrificed it? Like, are you still worthy for that identity, or is that identity even worth being worthy for?
Yeah. It's like I like that show where Pedro Pascal basically takes on a little orphan kid. Was it The Mandalorian or is it The Last of Us? Oh wait, it's both.
Yeah. Pedro Pascal is blowing up, and he deserves it. He's a great actor. I like him a lot.
Also, I'm not sure if this is gonna be controversial. I told this to Matt. I feel like Pedro Pascal as an actor falls into the same category as Nathan Fillion.
That might be controversial. I don't know. I know some people who like hate Nathan Fillion, and I'm like, why? He's great.
Yeah.
I love his comedic timing.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
You're talking about the guy who played the janitor in Community, right? That's what he's best known for.
He wasn't like he was part of the custodian staff. He wasn't the janitor. Like
Okay.
there was a group.
Yes. That's what the joke was. That he. All right. I'm gonna do another one. Another back to the grumpy loners
Okay,
is how about Nikki Pearson from This Is Us?
nice. That's a great pick. I would have forgotten about.
Yeah, because I mean, after Vietnam, he basically spends his whole life alone, depressed in a trailer. Don't get much more grumpy loner than that.
Yep.
And even when the big three find him and they have their whole thing, he still is like, "Get out of here! I don't need you!" and all of that. And it's Kevin of all people who can relate to him and the alcoholic side of things, who really kind of pulls him out of his shell. And they even have that nice moment in the finale where he's like, I was fine just living alone and being miserable until you had to come knocking on my door.
Yeah.
And that was. I think it's funny that he made. There's the whole thing where he made these intricate snow globes for Kevin's kids. And his whole thing's like, I gotta do this. These are my brother's grandkids. He didn't give any crap to Kate's kids or Randall's kids, who are also his brother's grandkids.
True.
Yeah,
What they do with Nikki is really strong because like he embodies a lot of the traits you're going to see in these other guys. Is
yeah,
that, like you said, he was content being on his own, and part of that is like people who are like this feel like they deserve to be alone a lot of times.
yeah.
Sometimes they just are very introverted, and that introvert, like I've got someone who it's not like he likes to be alone, like he
Mhm.
does, but anyway,
Yeah.
we'll get to him. But it's like those who are wounded like
Mhm.
this feel like they deserve to be alone, and that there's too much guilt to allow them to have that
Mhm.
connection again. And so when people come along and say, there's a family here, it's like, yeah, you can't pull someone out of wanting to do that, but you can make that available and be insistent and be like, you are loved, you are loved, you are loved, and like to say that over and over. And so
Mhm.
that was great to have Kevin be that for him, and for us to see, like, it wasn't just like, oh good, someone like Nikki's not like, oh, someone came to rescue me, that's great. He's like, I'm not here to be rescued,
Mhm.
but I see that there is something else that I haven't had in my life. Maybe I need to try this. And he
Yeah.
does. And it's not smooth sailing either, but he does get to a different place that looks really good. And I think that is a great pick.
Yeah. And especially one last thing about this is like interesting thing is like they have the bonding where they all have memories of Jack. but different versions of Jack. Like Nikki never knew like the father Jack, and
Yeah.
the kids and Rebecca never knew pre-Vietnam Jack.
Yeah. So wait, so not remembering my This Is Us timeline, but that Jack met Rebecca after Nam.
Yes, and he told
Okay.
her and everyone else that his brother died, and he knew that his brother was alive
Sure.
the whole time.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's another great fact. Like This Is Us did a lot of really smart things and was it for being cable TV, it was some prestige television and it did really well on some
yeah.
of the stuff that it tried to do.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to talk about a TV show that we've brought up a number of times actually in the last month, even though we've never done an episode about it. And that's that 70s show.
Okay.
And the character of Hyde absolutely fits this qualification that even though Hyde is a part of a group, he does have that like loner side. Like he's the type that if the group fell apart, I don't know if he'd find another one.
No.
Like I mean, the group does fall apart by the end of the season, and he's still apart with those. But like, it's not like he's itching to like, oh, let me become friends with this new Randy guy, or go to
Yeah.
find other people that like he. For whatever reason, the backstory of Hyde getting into this group was like there's not going to be that repeat again. He's not
No.
going to find other people like that. And whether like Hyde is another character too that because it was a sitcom, they never got too deep with him, but they allowed themselves to play with this a little bit, especially with him and his dad. And so the reasons why he was this way, we don't ever see, we don't go into, we just are taking at face value. He is a bit antisocial, but yet like to see his dad and be able to care and let someone in that deep of a way, I thought was some of the most intriguing parts of the later seasons in that 70s show.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also interesting because he is a grumpy loner, but at the same time, he likes his friends way more than he likes to pretend he does.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And I still think it's more like the couple of Kelso and Jackie is more iconic, but I liked her and I liked Jackie and Hyde the best out of the three pairings they gave her. They paired her up with everybody but Eric.
Jackie and Kelso has a lot of fun, and that's that doesn't work as an actual real life couple. I mean, there's a lot of people who who fall into that. I've seen that couple before, but it's not as good of a couple as I think Hyde and Jackie because Hyde is damaged, and Jackie, I think, is a person that thrives in being like a mama bird for someone who's damaged.
Yeah.
And Kelso's damaged, but like brain damaged. It's a completely different. He's very self-assured, and he is very independent in that way, even though his independence like brings about a lot of colossal mistakes because he's not very smart. But Hyde does need that sort of person. I think that a Hyde and Jackie relationship, it might not have the legs to make it, but would be one that would help both of these characters grow and mature. And I mean, a lot of us have had relationships like that in our life.
Yeah. All right, let's see who I got. All right, here it comes. Here's the Muppet reference. So, Matt, which Muppet do you think I picked? Because I think there's one that actually fits.
Ooh, well, I'm blanking on so many of them, and I'm just trying to think here. Is it Rolf?
No, Ralph is not grumpy at all. Ralph is like so laid back.
He's not grumpy, but just trying to think of like someone who is alone, though he plays music with them. He doesn't have. To me, when I look at Ralph, I don't view him as any sort of like pairing. He just kind of is there and like he'll have interactions with different ones. But there's like all these other characters I can think of in the Muppets, they have really strong pairings and relationships. And Ralph is just kind of like an amoebus blob that will fit in with anyone on the Muppets, but is very independent.
Brilliance of Ralph. But no, I'm going Sam the Eagle.
Sam the Eagle. Okay. That was, I had that thought, but I'm like, no, I don't think it's that.
It's not as strong of a pair into this category as others, but I think it still fits because, his whole thing is about, decency and I'm offended. And he never really has a strong desire to be friends with the Muppets, the other characters, even though he's, along with the gang for, all the movies and stuff. But I'm thinking that, for example, in The Great Muppet Caper, which is the second Muppet movie, here are Sam the Eagle's only 2 lines of dialogue in the entire film. At one point, he pokes his head out at the Happiness Hotel, which is the hotel run by the Muppets. They all stay there. And he says, "You are all weirdos." Ugh, and then leaves in a huff. And then at the end, there's a song when all the characters are skydiving and they all saying like, "and me, and me, and me." And he gets in "and me" along with everybody else. That's the only 2 lines of dialogue that Sam says in that entire film. And basically, except for the "and me," it's "you are all weirdos," and then leaves.
What a guy.
Yeah.
I do like Sam the Eagle a
Yeah.
lot. He when he's used well, like
Mhm.
he is hilarious. I think my favorite use of Sam the Eagle. Oh, I love his line actually in the Muppets. Jason Segel, like his first introduction is like, "Welcome to tonight's version of Everything Stinks."
Yeah.
Like that exactly the sort of talk show Sam the Eagle would have.
Mhm.
But I recently heard a comparison about the Disney park, now known as Hollywood Studios, that has the Muppet attraction there. And
Oh, the America
in
thing? Yeah.
yeah, in Disney World, or in that park, there are 3 different Star Wars like attractions at different points of the park. Like there's the big Star Wars land now. It's
Mhm.
giant. It's really massive. But then there's this other attraction that's in a different area, actually pretty close to the Muppets attraction. And then there's like this meet and greet called Launch Bay in a completely separate side of the park. So there's all this Star Wars representation
Mhm.
in this park, that was supposed to be like this tribute to all these movies. And so in the Muppets show, Sam the Eagle says is like, the tribute is to all countries, but especially America. And it's
Yeah.
like this park has now become a tribute to all the movies, but especially Star Wars.
Yeah.
Someone described it that way. I'm like, that is great.
That is
So-
great. Yeah, I thought you were gonna say it's controversial that he's like wants to be rah rah American.
It might be now, which it shouldn't be. Like, have patriotism. That's fine.
Yeah, that's all good. Right.
Okay. So I have 3 left, and
Me too.
these 3 are all like top tier. Like if I'm talking about like a top 3 for characters, these are my top 3. And it's really hard because there's one that's like comedic, and then there's the other 2 that are more serious. It's like it's really hard to balance those. But I think if I was
One
going
of
to say
them we
top
have
3,
the same. I know. I don't
Yeah.
think we. And one of mine might be yours, and one of mine is definitely not yours.
my number 3 would probably be Sawyer from Lost.
I didn't think of him. That's a great one.
He is a great one. He's such a dynamic character, and there's a lot of TV shows now that borrow from what Lost did with Sawyer of redeeming this like self-destructive. So I don't think we brought it. No, we talked about no, I don't think we brought him up when we talked about self-destructive narcissist, but he's self-destructive. He's just not quite a narcissist. He doesn't.
He could be a reluctant hero though.
He absolutely could be. He runs the gamut in the 6 seasons. He definitely has like the biggest arc of any character. Like Jack has a big one, but I think Sawyer's is a little bit bigger than
That's what she said.
Jack's. Thank you. And so Sawyer starts off in like this sort of like, I have to destroy myself. Like I can't have anything good. If there are good things for me, I don't deserve it. And I have to wreck anything good because that's who I am, because of the things I've done.
Yeah.
And he starts letting himself believe better for himself until he, spoiler alert for many years ago, he loses a woman he loves, Juliet. And then he really sulks that following season, is just in so much pain after that. But for going from season 1 to season 5, like the night and day difference, he is such a dynamic character that he intentionally drives people away. And you see this character type look like Sawyer in all these other shows because they did this so well with him.
Yeah. I don't even think you have to wait till season 5. I mean, there are hints of new Sawyer at the end of season 1. At the end of the first season, he's a different character. When he has that moment where, like, through the stories, he finds out, he realizes that he met Jack's dad. And before he goes out on the raft, he has that conversation with Jack. Sawyer, the pilot, would not have taken the time to do that.
Yeah, you're right. And then Sawyer, I would say like his turning point is in an episode. I think it's called Outlaws, but the one where he's hunting down this boar with Kate through the
Yeah.
jungle, and that boar is like this metaphor for like the past he's running from, the person that he killed in Australia, that he went to Australia to kill and ended up being the wrong guy, and then like for him to just let it go and be like, I'm not going to kill this pig, and to kind of like let his pain go a little bit, we start to see him grow. And then like in season 2 on the long con, he goes back into that, or like, by the way, I'm not soft anymore. Like I'm not, you can't just walk all over me as much as you guys want to like me. And so like
Yeah.
he reverts, and he goes like this little waffling thing for between season 2 and season 3. But until he gets to season 4 and he's a lot more established in that I'm okay to be a little bit of a leader.
Yeah. No, I think the more you talk about it, the more I realize Sawyer is. I don't know why I didn't think of it, but Sawyer definitely fits this category pretty well for all the reasons we talked about.
Yep, and he absolutely deserves to be in the top 3 of this character type to me.
Yeah. So my next one is one you may have. I'm not sure.
Okay.
This character was once described as middle-aged black man with sass, big butt, bigger heart.
I know who you're talking about.
Stanley Hudson from The Office.
I do not find that amusing.
Think about it. All he wants to do is sit and do his crossword puzzles. You know, Ryan even said once, I was his second choice after Pass.
I quoted that like yesterday. I quote that line a lot, and it still makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Every time.
Like it's all about money. Like, you know, all he wants to do is get in, get out, get paid, and retire. He doesn't care that much about anybody else.
And then also Philander.
Yes.
My favorite Stanley stuff comes from Florida Stanley. I loved Florida Stanley.
Yeah.
In the final season, he's given just a little bit more agency, and because of that, he gets to be a little bit too much of a caricature. Like, especially the one I'm thinking about is when they like trank him and send him down the steps.
Oh yeah,
trying to get him the sales call. Like, that to me is too much. But like, I think prior to Affairs, Stanley, he's a lot more grounded. I think after the Affairs, they go a little bit far with him. They go a little bit far with everyone, and they just get a little too exaggerated. But he's not someone that I'm like, oh, I really like this character, but he does add something for this show. And I definitely would not like this character as a person in real life.
No.
But he does add something to this show. You need someone who has a sour disposition.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite episodes with that is probably I don't remember what it's called, but the Did I Stutter episode.
It's called Did I Stutter?
Is that what it's called? I didn't want to sound like, I felt like I'd sound like an idiot if I said that and be like, no, that's not. But
yes, because you have to have all the Office episodes memorized.
I have to. I just went through like Lost, and I'm like, oh, this one episode from season 1 that I just am suddenly remembering right now. Like, I didn't look up to be like, wait, where did he have this arc? Like, I remembered it.
At one point, I had both Lost and The Office, the titles memorized. But the easy thing with Lost is that you can think, okay, you can categorize it in your head. What are all the Jack episodes? What are all the Kate episodes? Because like their episodes are broken up by person.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So I know that I could just say either one and it doesn't matter, but it matters to me, like who I would say is my number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
And they're both so good, but they're so different because of the shows that they're on. So I will say the one that is also on your list, and that as my number 2, and that's Ron Swanson.
Yep.
He is such a great character. He is like, despite being a grumpy loner, he is also so lovable. Yeah. Like, and I know that his political views, like people who watch the show, they probably like go far against what his political views are, but still, like, he does it in such a way that is like, he is opinionated, but he's not always rude about it. He leaves room for other people. And he's this character that, like, he's so well done, especially when you look at him with April, because they have this grumpy demeanor, like loner personality in common. But because of his age, he's able to mentor her, and he's able to speak to her about the times when it's like, sure, there's nothing wrong like with this style of life we've chosen, but there are things that we have to do as people in the society, and there's things that we have to do just because it's the moral right thing to do, and like helps her navigate when are those times that you allow people into your life, and that when you allow yourself to join with their vision, like with Leslie,
Mhm.
and even like April will sometimes, very rarely, do that back
Yeah.
for Ron, like especially with Duke Silver and her
Mhm.
knowing that secret of his.
Yeah.
And so Ron, he gets to be hilarious, but he also like he he is such I don't know a better way to say this, but I'm not meaning obviously romantically, but he's such an attractive personality. Like you
Yeah.
want to be around someone like this because
Yeah.
you just
Well,
respect them so much.
and with Ron, it's like it takes a lot to get him to get in his good graces. Like he starts out the show with a bit of an affinity and an affection, not romantically, for Leslie, and you can pinpoint different moments when he kind of like lets the other characters in. Like with April, I think it was when she helped him when he had a hernia. With Andy, it was when April was sick with the flu, and he helped him out as as his assistant for the day. What was another one? Like, there was Ben and Chris. There's another example I was thinking of where the all of a sudden by the end that whole main group is all people who is like in with Ron,
I've got a
but
good
they
one
had to earn it.
with Chris, even though that was more
Is
Chris's
the
idea.
cook
It's when
off?
Chris, no, when Chris is interviewing him, but he doesn't realize it, and like takes him to yoga and all this sort of stuff. And like
Oh
Chris's
yeah.
whole thing is like, I wanted to see, like, these are the things that I wasn't sure
Hmm.
about for giving you this position. If you could be open to something like this that you fundamentally are against. And like, I really loved that day that they had because Ron, even though it wasn't his idea,
Yeah.
did go along with it
Yeah.
to support Chris.
Yeah. So it's like he has the heart of gold, but he doesn't let anyone in. He doesn't want to show it to just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like the point where Jam is drunk and ruining Ben and Leslie's wedding, and he slugs him, and Ron just like, out of respect to the bride and groom, I'll give you that one, and then he punches him out and basically saves the wedding.
Yeah. Man, he's so great. Like I can't think of a better comedic character
Yeah.
than like that you like and that
Yes.
you would like as a person in real life.
Oh yeah, and for Tom, that's the one I forgot about. Tom earns Ron's respect when he's pitching him an idea and he realized that he fired John Ralphio. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Ron too is he's very. This is the other thing that is really attractive about his character is that he's very self-assured, and that's with some of these other characters that are loners that they're broken. Ron is not broken at all. He is very confident in who he is, but he doesn't use that confidence to steamroll people, and that's
Yeah.
why he is so opinionated because these are things that have worked well for him in his life, and so he will have room for people to speak into his life, but it's very difficult for that because he just knows how he works and he knows what's best for him. And like he is that sort of person that's like, you should have confidence in yourself. You should
Yeah.
have confidence in your opinions and the things
Hmm.
that you believe, but to have enough room that someone can speak into them.
Yeah.
And so I think he has a great balance in that and has so much emotional maturity that you never see him like lose his mind in the way that some of these other characters lose themselves emotionally. I shouldn't
Yeah.
say never, but rarely
I
do.
I think Ron Swanson is one of the great sitcom characters of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. So that means my number one has got to be pretty good, right?
Well, Ron was my number one, so I'll share with my number two.
Well, as the computer robot talking toilet once said, give me your number two.
Because Ron was my number one, so my number two is Luke Danes from Gilmore Girls, who I think is another perfect candidate for this position.
I don't have him, but that is a good pick. He is the second best character in the show.
Who was the first, in your opinion?
Richard.
I'll give you that. But we're not talking about Richard. So yeah, Luke. I mean, he's got his whole life. All he wants to do is to just run his diner and be left alone. And then, of course, Lorelai bursts into his life, and then Jess bursts into his life, and then his sister and his daughter. And by the end, he has a whole, surrounding full of people, kind of like Ron, when he's like, I didn't mean to care about anybody. I mean, that's not a quote from the show, but it's kind of how his life went.
Every relationship that he has is against his will, and that
Basically.
I love.
Yeah. But he also
except for Rory. I think of anyone else, like
Yeah.
even with Jess, like of anyone else in his life,
Mhm.
Rory is the one that he would choose that relationship and choose to care about her.
Yeah, and even before he was with Lorelai, like there's that episode that I actually watched recently where Rory and Jess are driving around in her car and they crash it, and then she's in the hospital with just like a broken arm, and then Lorelai is railing at Luke. You made them study together. It's just your fault. She's got a broken arm because of you. And then in Luke's speech back to her, because he's basically saying, okay, well, you know where Rory is. I have to find Jess because I don't know where he is. But in his quote,
Yeah.
he says, you know that I care more about Rory than I do myself. He didn't say like I care. It's as if it's so much so apparent that she knows that. But the fact that
Yeah.
she's okay and he knows that, then he's got to go find Jess. And like I said, reluctant or not, like Joe with the Jess is a perfect example. This nephew who he barely knows apparently is a troublemaker and gets sent to him. He's like, all right, I guess I'll take care of him now. And it's just like he's in over his head for sure. But by the end, they end up with a decent relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, Luke is a really good character because he is another one of these that he's not lonely because he's broken. And actually, like, if I look at my top three, then two of my characters are that way. That, like, okay, sure, there's a way to do it. And we saw that with Sawyer, is that there's a way to do a broken character who is alone and to do it well. But there's another different type of character that's just there. It's a lot of fun to see them be so self-assured for so long and that they've been successful in that, and then the world gets turned around because you do need people, and people bring something different into your life that you're not used to, and because you can't predict people, you can't control people, it's gonna get messy, and that there's the fun in the mess. And so with Luke, his life has a lot of messy moments that we see in the show, but he takes it like a champ, and it's a lot of fun to see how he handles all these messes.
Yeah. I also think it's funny that in real life he's like super like friendly and outgoing and like the opposite of Luke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say like, sure, Luke is like you would call him grumpy, but I don't know. Like the people that he lets into his life, he gives tough love, but he's not mean. You know, like there's a grumpy that's mean, and there's a grumpy that's just like a curmudgeon, and he's this curmudgeon that I never. I keep saying never, and I shouldn't say never. I rarely, when I'm watching him, feel like, oh, Luke, you're in the wrong, or that if he is, like he's doing it in a very angry way, or a way that's like letting your emotions get the best of you. You know,
I think the only time you go into that is the time like when he and Lorelai broke up, and he was so angry he was throwing everybody out of the diner. Remember that for a little bit?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's not perfect, obviously.
No, but no one is. A perfect character is a boring character.
Sometimes there are some perfect Aslan from not Lord of the Rings, from Narnia. Gandalf, I would even say like he's like any character that's the god stand-in, I guess.
Yeah.
Jesus from The Chosen,
or from the Bible,
or from the Bible.
Go to the source material.
Oh, you're one of these people that read the book. All right. The book's better. They go into so much more detail. Anyway. All right. Let's get to the greatest loner grump in history. And I've been rewatching this show, one of the two shows that he's on. So, like, I watch a lot of TV shows. Yeah. I love watching TV while I'm working. But there are certain shows that just hit different, and I'm going back and rewatching the show because we're going to have an episode about it in a couple weeks, and that's Better Call Saul. And I'm just like,
oh yeah,
gosh, this show is just so good. Like, I have to have some qualifiers for certain shows I watch. I'm like, it's good. There's some things I would whatever. Like Better Call Saul is just amazing prestige television. It's probably the best prestige drama I can think of. Better than Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad is also very, very high up there.
I finished Better Call Saul, so I'm not going to talk. I finally did finish it, so I haven't. We'll talk about it more on that episode, but it's a fantastic show. I will give you that.
yeah, we'll leave out spoilers for the final season right now because we'll talk about that final season in just a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But the character, obviously, if you've seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, you know that the character I'm talking about is Mike Ehrmantraut.
Yep.
He is just this fantastic character, and there's a reason like he's number one. He is such a dynamic character because when we meet him in Breaking Bad, I mean, we've commented before how he was only supposed to be this one-off character, and just Jonathan Banks was like nailed it, and like we need more of this guy. But his character is this great foil to Walter because they're both used to being the smartest guy in the room. They're both used to being like the I'm in control, I've got a plan. And that Mike, even though he is in control, he's not loud and boisterous like Walter. Walter has to like wave this flag of I'm in control, whereas Mike is this quiet, logical, analytical side that he's always thinking of like multiple different plans, multiple different ways out. But he's just as calculating and as good at plans to me as Walter is. But Walter keeps getting the best of him because Walter is just this off the cuff, like you get him mad and you don't know what he's going to do. Like he is this wild card that was able to disrupt this entire cartel empire in New Mexico. And like Jonathan Banks, Mike Ehrmantraut falls a victim to that. And so we get to see that great relationship play out as they are antagonists against each other. But then we get to back up in Better Call Saul, and we meet Mike when he is just after he had moved to Albuquerque. And he moves to Albuquerque because as a dirty cop taking these bribes, his son finds out about it, tries to cover for him, gets killed by these other dirty cops. And then Mike kills the people who killed his son, and he has to move to Albuquerque to get out of there, and he's living with this guilt and he's living with this pain that not only did he let his son down by accepting these bribes, but also that he drug him down to his level and got him killed. And so Mike, we don't see any Mike before that. No. That's the earliest that we get of him. And so we don't know what he was like as a cop. We don't, apart from the stories he tells, we don't know what he was like as a young man. We just meet him at an age when he has nothing except for his granddaughter and his daughter-in-law. Yeah. And so he, in Better Call Saul, he's a softer character actually than we see in Breaking Bad. And that we get to see his journey from like what he did in, I think it was Philadelphia was where he was a cop, that what he did in Philadelphia all the way to working with Gus. And he kind of eases into that lifestyle. He doesn't like run into it guns blazing. He has a knack for it. He's always been good at it. He has the skills that he needs. But we get to watch that arc with him. And it's amazing that we get to see two really good arcs of Mike in two different shows. Yeah. Like he is such a good character that he deserved to he would deserve to be brought back. And I just love what they do. And I love what Jonathan Banks brings to the character. And I don't think he ever won an Emmy for it, but he absolutely should have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's one of those characters that is just dynamic on the screen, which is like so many characters, especially in Better Call Saul. I agree with you that this might be controversial. I think Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad.
Yep. Although Breaking Bad, I will say, ended better. It's not like I dislike the ending of Better Call Saul, and we'll talk about that in a couple weeks, but I think Breaking Bad, the finale was just so perfect, whereas Better Call Saul, the finale was very, very good. Yeah. But hard to beat perfect.
Without getting into the details on this podcast, the problem with Better Call Saul is that it kind of just blends into the beginning of Breaking Bad, and it's like, it doesn't really get a proper finale because these characters keep going on a lot of these characters go on in Breaking Bad, and that's where their true finale is. Like Mike,
a lot of these characters go on and die in Breaking Bad. Well, these characters, like, oh, Walt killed him, Walt killed him, Walt killed him, Walt killed him.
Yeah, like Mike, he doesn't have like any kind of big fanfare ending of Better Call Saul because he got that already in Breaking Bad.
Although there is like a very good moment that I think is. And again, we'll talk about this, like the last moment we have of Mike, outside of like the flashbacks, is like it sets up the final capstone of his arc where he goes from like I'm just easing into this life to like I'm all in because someone like people who weren't in the game
Yeah.
got hurt, and because of that, it killed a piece of him. It took a piece of him
Hmm.
and put that with these people who got hurt.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
All right. So that's my whole list. I don't have anyone else on my list. Was that your whole list too?
Yeah, I will give a shout out because I haven't watched the full show yet. I've seen like half of the first season and I like
Okay.
it so far. But there's a show called Barry with
Okay.
Bill Hader, and he
Huh.
is a an assassin who doesn't really want to do that anymore, and he has a target that he's going after in LA, but this guy's in an acting class, and then like he pops into this acting class. I think like as sort of like research, I can't quite remember, but like as some sort of research with his character, and then he just finds like he's so enamored with his acting life. And
Yeah.
he keeps going to this acting troupe, and he wants to be an actor instead of being an assassin. And so it's this dark comedy that's
Mhm.
really good. And his character is a pretty flat, like in this first season. I've heard that he gets different in the later seasons, but
Yeah.
his character in this first season is like this socially awkward flat guy who wants to do something new and wants to do something different, even though he's not good at acting at all, but
Yeah.
it's really calling to him and pulling him in.
Nice. And then also, I don't know if you've seen the new Tom Hanks movie, A Man Called Otto, but Otto is definitely a grumpy loner.
I've seen the trailers and I would have imagined that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. By the end, I predicted what was going to happen, but it's still good.
Did he become a transformer and then he became a man called Otto, Auto?
And you guessed it right away.
I knew it. I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
What a stupid comment I made. Every now and then you look at it, like, I don't know about you guys, but I tell a lot of jokes. They're not all winners. It's fine. But I'll look at a joke after I say it and I'm like, what was I saying? What is wrong with me?
See, whenever I make a joke that's so bad, I just save it I just commit to it and give like the Fozzie Bear noise. I go, ah.
That's not saving it. That's having an aneurysm. Oh no, Brian needs to get to the hospital.
So, man, I actually did my preparation. I actually looked up because half the time we get to this point in the recording and we're like, oh crap, what was last week's episode about? What was the trivia about? We don't remember. And then we stop and I have to edit out like 10 minutes of us going back and looking at the last episode to figure out what we talked about. Not this week. I did that ahead of time and I actually know what we talked about last week for trivia.
I did preparation too. It's but mine was about like looking at these characters because these characters that we've talked about are really, really good. And I was like, I want to do it justice. So like I really thought through some of the things I was going to say tonight versus some of the other times I'm like, I'm a little more off the cuff.
Yeah, I was more off the cuff. I think I enjoyed it with what I said.
Yes, I don't think you said anything bad or things I disagree with or anything that was just like, oh, that's surface level.
Yeah. So last week we were talking about the worst character additions, and you mentioned Lost, and you said that with Lost, there was an actor who asked to be killed off the show.
Yes.
And that actor, well, you want to tell us who it is?
Was oh no! How do you pronounce his name?
That's why I was going to have you say it.
Adewale. Hang on.
Triple A.
Yes.
Adewale something Agbaje. Mr. Echo.
Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaje. Yeah.
I'm sure we're butchering that.
I'm sure it's not right either, but it's as good as he's gonna get. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He didn't like living in Hawaii. What?
What's wrong with you? Was he like, there's too much spam around?
It would have been interesting because I'm sure they could have done a lot of interesting stuff with him because I don't think the plan was to kill him off, at least not that early.
Yeah.
Maybe later.
It's especially like you can tell because it's like they bring him back for season 3 only to be like, oh, let's have bears kidnap him and kill him. Well, the smoke killed him, but
first the bears didn't help either.
Yeah, I remember like in season 3 because we talked about this last week how the season 3 did like this thing where it's like let's air 7 episodes in a row. All the episodes were in their Jack, Kate, and Sawyer are
Yeah.
on this other island,
Hmm.
and then it cuts off at the when he is doing the surgery on Ben
Hmm.
at the end of that episode, and he's like, Kate, run, or whatever. And that's when that little chunk cuts off, and then there's like 3 or 4 months. Anyway, I'm like, I know, just because I know how they're gonna do it, I know that one character is gonna die in these first 7 episodes. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, okay, who's it gonna be? And I just remember like constantly being like, it's not going to be Echo. It's not going to be Echo. They are not going to bring him back just to kill him. I was like, of all the characters, he is the safest, and he dies.
But the question is, if he hadn't asked to get killed off the show, would someone else have died in that first 7 block instead?
You know what? I really think someone would have, because I just think like that was the hook. I think it
Yeah.
was have some character die, and so then you can sit with that for 3 months or so.
Because the big season 3 death was Charlie, that they were telegraphing the whole season. He died at the end.
Yes.
Echo was kind of he wants to get Lagos, we'll kill him too.
The big season 3 death was Nikki and Paulo, obviously.
Of course.
Huge.
Or most of the others.
Yeah. We're just gonna kill them all. That's what they get.
Yeah. All right. So for this week's trivia, one of the loners we talked about. So we've only talked about male loners. All of our picks were guys, which kind of goes along with the character type. One of these characters in the show, its show's initial conception, was originally going to be a female character, and then that character, before it was cast, I think got changed into being a male character.
Scruffy.
Scruffy's
gonna die the way that Scruffy lives.
Yeah.
Voiced by Roseanne Barr, obviously.
Yes. So which of these guys was almost a female?
That's a good trivia question.
Do you know this?
I don't know this.
Okay.
But I'll guess once we're done.
Yeah, we will.
Well, that is it. Next week, we've got a sequel. We are going to talk again about our best reboots and best adapted TV shows. We've done an episode like this before, but you know what? There's a lot of adapted material that has come out even in recent years. Like, I'm sorry, they made about 3,000 new Star Trek shows. They've got plenty of pretty much anything that comes out on Disney Plus is adapted material from other sources. Yeah. So we're going to talk about what are some best either reboots or adapted shows, and we're going to give you a couple of our top picks in that. So you won't want to miss that. And also next week it's going to be Brian's birthday too. So we'll just be like, "Yay, Brian! Good for you! You're so old." And you'll be like, "No, I'm not." So,
and then like 2 weeks after that, it's Matt's birthday. He can be old too.
I can be old too. Yay! I've had people ask me recently, like a couple different times, how old are you? And I keep telling them how old I'm gonna be, and I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm not there yet. Okay.
So see, I just jump ahead. I just tell them I'm 75.
My favorite joke is to be like Brian, you don't look a day over 83. Because it's true, you don't.
I think 83 is a frequently used random number.
Oh, sometimes I say like 94. Sometimes I say 76. You can't. The joke doesn't work to me. I don't know why, but it doesn't work with like an even number, like 80 or even like 85. I know that's not even, but you know what I mean. It's got to be like a random one in there. So,
yeah. So we all learn
that's comedy for you. I'm teaching you comedy. Go with a prime number. If you can find a prime number, that's comedic gold.
Also, Matt thinks 85 is an even number.
No, I didn't say that.
I know you specifically said not to, but I think you say even, and then you first like 85.
Look, I'm stupid enough on my own. You can just catch me in any of the other gaffes I make. You don't have to create new ones.
Okay, before we go, random. Okay, I witnessed a cartoon in real life. Okay, you know how like in cartoons, when like two cats are fighting, they get in like a big ball and then fur goes everywhere.
No way.
That happened in real life. So I was at my girlfriend's place and I brought my cat, a long story, and my cat and her cat, like they started like lunging and fighting each other. It was like I had to separate them. There was like a big ball of cats and fur was flying everywhere. I was like, ah. And then afterwards I'm like,
go, cat fight! And your girlfriend just looks at you like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, she wasn't there. I was alone with all the animals.
She called you up through the video messaging.
Yeah,
She's like,
pretty
I
much.
heard what you said, Brian.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, this was a fun episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. These are such great characters. Honestly, if you guys have not watched Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, what are you doing with your life? Go watch those shows. They're so good.
They are.
I'm loving it. I'm in the middle of season 2, and I'm just like, there's stuff I forgot that it's almost like it's new and fresh for me. I'm just loving the journey I'm on. So go do that. They're both on Netflix.
Mhm.
It's good. But until next time, I'm Matt,
I'm Brian.
and we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.